Dre came back the last time from being in St. Louis. He wasn't living with Robbie at the time. He came back and he said, Mom, he said, if anything ever happened to me, just know that Tim did it. What are you talking about? He said, well, just know Tim don't never do his own dirty work. But I got that fatal call from her about Dre. And I didn't want to answer the phone. You know, I just didn't want to answer the phone. And then she hung up and she called right back. And then that's when she was like, well, you know, the detectives was here. And already my heart is already slowing down, you know, and to the point where they want her to go down to the morgue to identify that was him. That was it. You know, it was like, it was so surreal. Everything was just rolling around. I'm just like, not my son. You know, not my son. Not my son.
What's up, good executive Vipo? I keep saying that. What's up, good Vipo? I'm so used to talking to the executive. Let me know that you can hear me in the chat by putting your heart emojis and your hug emojis in the chat for our very own Precious G, who unfortunately lost her mother on last week. And she is such a trooper. She has still been very faithful and participating with all that we're doing, but we're definitely sending our love and our hugs out to our very own Precious, who continues to bring the shenanigans in spite of everything that she's been dealing with for quite a while. So definitely showing much love to Precious. And we're dedicating this particular live stream to her mother as well. So today, what we actually have is, let me see. Oh, here we go. Yes. What we have today is what many of you have been waiting for. And that is, if we move fast enough, we have on the docket today, we have David Sullivan, who is the VP of Forrester's Insurance, who is the insurance company that unfortunately did grant Tim Norman the fraudulent insurance policy, although they never actually gave him the money. And then after that is Terica Ellis. And we get to hear her testimony in her voice, aka my voice. And so hopefully we'll get to it. Her testimony is pretty long, so I don't know if we'll get through the whole thing. I'm thinking we may not, but we're getting started with Terica today, I'm pretty sure. So today, Margin had plans, and so she won't be with us tonight, but she's here with us in spirit. However, we do have the pleasure of having Robert with us this evening. He will be playing the role of the court, aka John Ross. Then we have Carol. We have Mocha Barbary, who will be playing Carol, Miss Gwendolyn Carroll. Then we have Precious, who will be acting in the role of David Sullivan. We have myself, who will be acting in the role of Terica Ellis. And Precious and myself will be sharing the role of Mr. Leonard today, because while I'm playing the role of, well, it might be the next week too, but while I'm playing the role of Terica, Precious will be acting as Mr. Leonard because he does cross-examine her. So we will see how that goes. Please hit that like button if you have not as of yet. It does a lot to help this channel grow, of course. And if you're looking forward to hearing the testimony from Terica Ellis, put "I didn't do it" in the chat. I didn't do it in the chat. It won't let me do my poll. Okay, well, we ain't gonna worry about it. I don't do too many polls during this anyway. All right, so with that, I'm going to bring up our wonderful ensemble of cast members, and then we're gonna get right into it. So starting with Precious G. Hey, Precious, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Welcome. Double shenanigans, people. I gotta be Mr. Leonard tonight. Y'all already know what that means.
Exactly. Then we have Robert.
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, I'm glad to be here.
All right, glad to have you. And then Mocha Barbie.
Hey guys, how are you?
Great, great, great. All right, so the cast is all here. We're gonna share our document on the screen per usual, and we're gonna get right into it. I gotta get on my right screen for. Here we go. Good, it was right there. All right. Okay, so we're gonna get started. The proceedings commenced on September the 8th of 2022 at 9:26 a.m. starting with the court.
Good morning, counsel. I think you know that we had some transportation issues this morning, so that caused our delay. Now, as I understand it, the government's next witness is Terica Ellis. Is that correct?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. The government next witness is David Sullivan.
Okay. Here's what I need you to understand before Terica Ellis testifies. I'm going to take a break so that we can let the jury go out and then have Ms. Ellis on the witness stand prior to her testimony. So you just need to be aware of that. That's fine. Are you ready to proceed?
Somebody's volume, I don't know if it's Mocha. Is your volume a little high that you're listening to us on? Because I'm getting feedback.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
Let me see.
And okay, Mr. Leonard. Yeah, Judge. We did file a motion to bar Mr. Sullivan as a witness at trial.
What time was that filed?
In the evening.
Okay.
Notice of him being called as a witness was yesterday at 4:30. So we didn't have an option but to file at that time.
Anything you want to tell me about that motion?
Sure, Judge.
Come up here to the podium, and that's great.
Yes, Your Honor. Our expectation is that I think it is pretty much the sole limited purpose for which they are calling Sullivan is just to show that Mr. Yagnam, the insurance agent broker, was not properly certified to be their agent and that he couldn't submit applications. And so our position would be it is entirely irrelevant whether he was qualified or not. Mr. Norman certainly did not have any notice or knowledge that Mr. Yagnam wasn't qualified with that particular company. It certainly doesn't go to further any conspiracy. And also, Judge, under 403, conceivable limited relevance is substantially outweighed by the danger of prejudice. You can't tag Mr. Norman with knowledge whether he qualifies pursuant to the internal workings of some insurance company as an agent. It is far from the issues in this case, and it is certainly not part of the conspiracy.
Okay. All right.
Your Honor, I hope I can resolve this very easily for the court. The government has no intention to call Mr. Sullivan to testify for this, and that the government does not believe Mr. Sullivan knows whether Mr. Yagnam is a consensual agent.
Let me interrupt. Mr. Sullivan is a Foresters Life Company claim representative.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what's his position there?
He is a vice president of claims. He is testifying that Mr. Norman's attempt to collect on the Forester life insurance policy.
But the things that Mr. Leonard is referencing, whether or not Mr. Yagnam is qualified as an agent, he is not going to testify to that.
No, he is not, Your Honor.
To the extent I'll interpret your motion to bar his testimony as a motion in limine to exclude testimony related to whether or not Mr. Yagnam is a qualified agent. Now, I'm going to grant that motion. I'll instruct the government not to get into that issue. If you believe the evidence should cause me to change the ruling, approach the sidebar. I'll take it up at the sidebar. So that being said, anything further you want to tell me?
No, Judge. Obviously, we brought that motion, and that was briefed too.
All right. So the motion to bar again is going to be granted in part, as it will be ruling by the court to limit that aspect of the testimony. With that, you're ready to proceed. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Counsel, you are ready to proceed as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's go get the jury. John, wait 1 minute. Let me make sure I'm clear on one other aspect. During the course of Mr. Sullivan's testimony, is it the government's intent to play a tape of a call that was made to Forester's Life?
It is, Your Honor. There are actually 2 recordings that are going to be played, and we have given the court the instructions for the transcripts. Those recordings have been previously admitted.
Okay. All right. And again, the government has submitted through my assistant, judicial assistant, proposed instructions. You are agreeable with that, Mr. Leonard?
Yes. What the counsel tendered, we are agreeing with the court reading.
It includes that bracketed language with regard to whether the transcripts correctly or incorrectly reflect the conversation. And you are asking for that language. Is that correct?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. All right. Go ahead and get this jury.
The proceedings commenced at 9:35 a.m. and then the jury was present.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for the delay in getting started this morning. We had some transportation issues. I'm not sure if the traffic is as a result of school being back in session. In any event, we had some transportation issues. I apologize for the delay. And if you will make sure you have the correct notebooks, anybody have an incorrect notebook, raise your hand. I see no hands. So I assume everyone has the correct notebook. When we recessed at the end of the day yesterday, the government was presenting evidence. Ms. Carroll, you may proceed with evidence.
Your Honor, the government calls David Sullivan.
If you will step up here, the clerk will administer the oath, Mr. Sullivan. If you will speak into the microphone, it will help amplify your voice. There is a bottle of water next to you, to your left, if you would like that. You counsel, you may proceed with questions of the witness.
Okay, one quick second.
Can you still?
What's happening?
I'm sorry. I was asking, are you still getting feedback?
Yeah, but I think it might be on Robert's side. I think his volume might be high or something. So it could be feedback coming through.
Okay.
But it's fine because now it'll be y'all.
Okay.
But when they were talking about when Judge Ross was talking about the delay with traffic, he was talking about we were waiting on Tim Norman, and that happened a couple times because him being transported from the jail, there was traffic sometimes. So that's what he was referring to. Okay, we're ready.
Good morning, Mr. Sullivan.
Good morning.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is David Sullivan.
Where do you work, Mr. Sullivan?
I work at Forrester's Financial.
And what is Forrester Financial?
Forrester's Financial is a life insurance company.
What is the position? What is your position with Forrester's Financial?
I'm an assistant vice president over claims, contracting, and compensation.
Can you explain what that job involves? What are your duties?
Yeah. I oversee the teams over the adjudication of life insurance claims, the compensation and contracting of agents who sell our products.
What does that mean? The judiciary,
Adjudication.
sorry, adjudication of claims.
When we get claims submitted under the contract, we have a time review information that's submitted on the life insurance policy to determine if there is coverage under claims. If there is, we pay benefits on that.
Are you aware of whether James Timothy Norman has a life insurance policy on Andre Montgomery with Forrester's Life?
Yes, I'm aware he did.
What was the face value of that policy?
The face value was $200,000.
Was there also an accidental death rider in that policy?
Yes, there was.
Something called a term rider, where was there also a term rider on the policy?
Yes, there was.
Was the amount of the accidental death rider?
It would have been 200,000,
And the term rider?
50,000.
Can you explain for the jury what that means, the term rider?
It is an additional coverage added onto the base face amount selected at the time of the application to increase the death benefits payable.
What was the total value of the policy?
450,000.
Are you aware of whether while that policy was in place, Andre Montgomery died?
Yes, I'm aware.
After Andre's death, what attempts did the defendant, Mr. Norman, make on collecting on the $450,000 policy?
He called in to open up a claim on the life insurance policy they're insuring Andre Montgomery.
And at some point, did that agent representing Mr. Norman contact Forrester in the claim process?
Yes, they did.
On March 18, 2016, did Wade Yagam place a call to Forrester's on behalf, excuse me, of the defendant?
Yes, he did.
Have you heard the recording of the call?
Yes, I have.
Was that call recorded by Forrester?
Yes, it was.
And have you reviewed the recording prior to the testimony here?
Yes, I have.
Please pull up 17C. Mr. Sullivan, have you also reviewed the transcripts that appear on the screen here of this recording?
Yes.
Does that transcript accurately reflect the contents of the recorded call as are above to hear? As we are about to hear, I'm sorry.
Yes, it does.
What was the date of the call from Mr. Yagam to Forrester?
March 18th, 2016.
If you know, what was the date of Andre's Montgomery's death?
I believe his death was March 14th, 2016.
So the call that was 4 days later?
Correct.
Can you please play the recording?
Before you play the recording, counsel, again, the recording is Exhibit 17E. Is that correct?
17C, Your Honor.
Okay. So it is Exhibit 17C. And the transcript is Exhibit 17C-1 and subject to the instruction that I'm going to read. Those have been identified. 17C-1 was not admitted in the evidence. Are you offering it into the evidence?
I am not, Your Honor.
Okay. So just Exhibit 17C, which is one recording. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the agreement of the attorneys, the court has an instruction to read to you. As you have heard, there is a transcript of the recording you are about to hear. That transcript also undertakes to identify the speakers engaged in the conversation. The transcript is for the limited purpose of helping you to follow the conversation as you listen to the recording, and also help you keep track of the speakers. Difference in meaning between what you hear and in the recording and what you read in the transcript may be caused by such things as the inflection of the speaker's voice. It is what you hear, however, and not what you read, that is evidence. Whether the transcript correctly or incorrectly reflects the conversation or the identity of the speakers is entirely for you to decide, based upon what you hear on the recording and what you have heard here about the preparation of the transcript, and upon your own examination of the transcript in relation to what you hear on the recording. If you decide the transcript is in any respect incorrect or unreliable, you should disregard it to that extent. And with that, counsel, you may proceed with the playing of the recording and showing the transcript.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then the government's Exhibit 17C was played. So if I'm not mistaken, this is the phone conversation when, I don't know if it's just YL or YL and Tim.
Mr. Sullivan, were the premiums regularly being paid on the policy on Andre Montgomery's life?
Yes, they were.
Who was making them?
Mr. Norman.
So at the time of Andre's murder, was the policy in place?
Yes, it was.
Who was the beneficiary of the policy?
Mr. Norman was.
Following this call from Mr. Yagman, did Forrester receive a call from the defendant himself, Mr. Norman?
Yes, they did.
What was the date of the call?
I believe it was March 21st, 2016. That was quick.
And the date of Andre's murder?
March 14th, 2016.
Was the call by the defendant then a week after the murder?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan, I'll ask you to keep your voice up, if you would. Thank you.
Okay, I will.
Did Forrester also make a recording of call placed by Mr. Norman to Forrester Life Insurance?
Yes, we did.
And have you reviewed that recording?
Yes, I have.
Have you also reviewed the transcript of that recording?
Yes, I have.
And is that transcript accurate in the reflection of the contents of the recording?
Yes, it is.
Counsel, do you want me to read the same instruction again? Or can I simply direct the jury to be guided that instruction?
You can just instruct. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will be guided by the instruction that I read to you. Before this, you may proceed.
Mr. Sullivan, Government Exhibit 17D, is that the recording of the call placed by defendant Mr. Norman?
Yes, it is.
Can you please play 17D?
And government exhibit 17D was played. I think this is when Tim called in like, hey, where my money at? Y'all taking forever. What's happening? And we heard his voice. It was eerie. It was eerie hearing his voice call in.
Wow. Mr. Sullivan, after Mr. Norman placed the phone call on to Forrester's, did he put in a claim for the policy on Andre Montgomery's life?
Yes, he did.
Can we please pull up Government Exhibit 17B, page 3? What is this, Mr. Sullivan?
This is our claim form, statement for claim benefits.
How does this work? How does Forrester treat it?
We send this form out to the claimant's beneficiary and ask they complete the information on it and send it back to us. And we use this as part of our investigation into the claim.
Could you please go to page 4, section 3 and section 4? The text that's written in there, Mr. Sullivan. What is the section 3 of this death claim form?
These are questions asking the claimant to provide us with information about the descendant's medical history.
What does Mr. Norman indicates on the form he submitted?
Intended physicians at People's Health Clinic.
And section 4 claimant statement. What is the information there?
That's Mr. Norman's name and information applicable to Mr. Norman.
Okay, please scroll down to the signature block that appears at the bottom. What signature appears at the bottom of the form?
James T. Norman.
Please go to page 6 of 17B. Mr. Sullivan, was this recorded submitted by the defendant as part of his attempt to claim the life insurance benefit?
Yes, it was.
What is this record?
This is a copy of the certified death certificate of Mr. Montgomery.
What is the cause of death that is listed at the bottom of this form?
That the cause is a gunshot wound.
And the manner of death?
Is homicide.
Please go to page 8, zooming in with the envelope on the top. What is this, Mr. Sullivan?
This appears to be the envelope that the claim documentation came to Forrester's in.
Is this a U.S. mail envelope?
Yes, it is.
I know it is cut off a little bit. Are you able to read the name of the sender in this claim?
Yes, it would appear to be James T. Norman.
Please go to page 10. Mr. Sullivan, after Forrester's received Mr. Norman's death claim on Andre Montgomery, how did it respond?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. Looking at the letter that appears on the screen in front of you.
Oh, I see.
What was this communication sent to, by Forrester to Mr. Norman after the file he claimed?
Yes, it was.
And if you could please read the first paragraph that appears beginning with "we received."
And again, if you can keep your voice up and read slowly. Thank you.
Sure. We received your completed claim forms and have requested medical records from the Betty Jean Kurz People's Health Centers to continue with our evaluation of your claim because we rely on medical providers to supply us with information. This process could take several weeks. Everything is done to ensure all relevant information is obtained in a timely manner. And we will provide you with periodic updates on our progress. I'm reading fast. I want to get to Terica.
Why did Forrester request medical records from the Betty Jean Kerr People's Health Clinic?
In the claimant's statement, Mr. Norman indicated that's where Mr. Montgomery had received medical treatment. And as part of our normal claims process in this case, we will request information from that facility to review.
Please go to page 12. Mr. Sullivan, what is the letter sent by Forrester's to Mr. Norman?
It is an update status advising we have not received certain information requested because we know he didn't have it.
Please highlight the paragraph below it as well. Mr. Sullivan, can you please read these two paragraphs in the letter sent to Mr. Norman by Forrester?
To date, we have not received the necessary requirements. You need to further consider your claim. In order to proceed, we require copies of the finalized police toxicology and coroner's reports. We have also been advised by Betty Jean Kerr's People's Health Centers they do not have a patient by the name of Andre Montgomery because you falsified that. Therefore, we will not require the names and addresses of any physicians Mr. Montgomery would have seen between November of 2004 and November 2014.
Why did Forrester need things like police report or coroner's reports when they are looking at this claim by Mr. Norman?
In these types of claims, it helps confirm the cause and manner of death, and then it could provide any other information it would be relevant in reviewing the base claim or the accidental death claim.
Mr. Sullivan, was Mr. Norman claim considered a contestable claim?
Yes, it is.
What is that?
That is when the death of the applicant insured occurs in the first 2 years of the insurance of the policy.
So this claim then that was put within 2 years of the time the policy was in place?
Yes.
Could we please go 17B, page 4, side by side with People's Health Center paragraph from page 12? Mr. Sullivan, the box the jury is seen at the top of the screen there, was that Mr. Norman's representation to Forresters about Andre Montgomery's treatment at People's Health Center?
Yes, it was.
What did Mr. Norman tell Forrester about Andre's medical records?
That they were available at People's Health Clinic and that he had a checkup in December of 13.
What did Forrester find when they contacted the People's Health Clinic?
It was all lies. We found that People's advised us that Mr. Montgomery was never a patient there.
Please go to page 18. What is this form, Mr. Sullivan?
This is the agent questionnaire form we send out as a standard practice on contestable claims.
Please zoom in on questions 2 and 3. Mr. Sullivan, was this form then sent to agent who had worked on this policy?
Yes.
Was that Mr. Yagam who called, we heard?
Yes, it was.
Could you please read question 2 and answer? I'm sorry. Could you please read questions 2 and the answer given to the jury?
Where was the application completed? Who was present during the application process? If it was a voice application, who was on the telephone when you completed the application? Who was on the telephone when the interview was done by applicable? The response was the application was taken at his uncle's house. His uncle and his cousin were both present along with him.
And question 3?
Did you review all questions and answers on the application with the applicant? The response was yes.
And question 7, please.
Who provided the final answers to the application questions? And the response was Andre Montgomery, the applicant.
Mr. Sullivan, why does Forrester care whether Andre Montgomery was present when the application was filed out? Whether he actually answered the question?
The applicant is important because the applicant has to consent to the insurance, which he did not. And by doing that, by signing the application, which he didn't, he consents to it. And it's important that he's aware and in agreement that the insurance to be taken out on him, which he never did.
During Forrester claim adjustment, its review of Mr. Norman's claim, what conclusion did Forrester reach about whether Andre Montgomery had, in fact, authorized the application?
Objection to the foundation and hearsay.
The objection is sustained as to the foundation.
Mr. Sullivan, during the claims adjustment process, did Forrester attempt to determine whether it was, in fact, the case that Andre Montgomery had authorized the application?
Yes.
And what steps did Forrester take to do that?
We had an independent investigator reach out to local authorities that were working on the case.
Objection, non-responsive in 403.
Approach the sidebar.
So then the proceedings were held at sidebar. They put the white noise on so the audience can't hear, but they're talking on the side of the judge's bench.
I want to understand where you anticipate this is going.
One of the bases that Forrester used to deny, used for denying the claim was that they concluded during their claim adjustment process that Andre Montgomery had not authorized the policy. So I can limit it to just what Forrester's determination was on why they denied the claim.
Judge, the question was just posed to the witness. Was there a meeting between Andre Montgomery and Wael Yagnam? And now he's going to answer that question. He has no basis to say whether there was a meeting or not. He is instead going to give hearsay from the St. Louis Police Department about whether they are investigating and whatever heck they are doing. They can certainly say that they denied the claim. They can certainly say they contacted them. They can't get into the contents of those discussions with St. Louis Police Department.
I agree that you can't get into discussions about what they were told by the St. Louis Police Department.
I absolutely won't, Your Honor. I'm just happy to say what was the basis of why Forrester denied the claim, which will be that they determined that Andre did not authorize it.
Again, that's a hearsay statement made by the St. Louis Police Department without a foundation as to how they determined that Andre didn't authorize it. Call the police department witness, lay a foundation through him, figure out how he determined there wasn't a meeting, and get a non-hearsay answer.
Actually, Your Honor, Forrester's did much more than that. It was all non-hearsay. They actually did a handwriting analysis. I do not have to get into that, but they did their own independent investigation as part of the claims adjudication process. And I think the probable, did I say that right? I can't see it. Sorry. Value of the basis for denying the claim is significant. It is not that they relied on the St. Louis Police Department for information. They did an independent analysis.
But the way you're asking the question, it requires an inference of hearsay, if not hearsay. So if you limit the questions of why did you deny the claim, it seems to me that he can answer that.
But the problem is he is not going to know that. So he is going to give a hearsay response, Judge.
And Mr. Leonard, and my point is that your question has to be narrow and directed so that he is not being asked, what did the St. Louis Police Department tell him? What did the handwriting expert tell him? I mean, if you want to present that evidence, you can certainly do that. But with this witness, he can't testify to that. It needs to be very directed. It really needs to be a yes or no question, because I don't want him to, he can't get into hearsay.
Agreed, Your Honor. I would just ask him, why did Forrester deny the claim? And he will list 3 reasons, including that they concluded Andre did not authorize the application. They found that there was inconsistencies.
I'm concerned with that question about the witness understanding that he will volunteer information that has been objected to.
I'm happy to limit my question by saying, Mr. Sullivan.
Really, what are you asking me to do is to direct her to ask a leading question so that...
Sure. What my concern is based upon what counsel has just said is he is going to say that the St. Louis Police Department told me there wasn't a meeting. Andre Montgomery didn't sign it. That's hearsay, Judge, without foundation.
And I understand that. And
Whiner.
I'm also agreeing with you.
But she is saying she's going to do it. Marsha.
No, Mr. Leonard.
I will say, did foresters determine that that Andre Montgomery did not authorize the policy? Is that my question?
The question is, did foresters deny the claim?
Because it determined.
Because it determined.
I will ask that question, Your Honor.
Is that an agreeable?
As long as they say that and he doesn't start talking, Judge, because I will be up there. I'll be up. I ain't playing with y'all no more.
I understand, and you can stay in your seat.
Thank you, Judge. So they was fisticuffing. We didn't know that. This is new to
You
me.
gonna stay in your seat.
So the court proceedings resume in open court.
Counsel, pose another question of the witness.
Mr. Sullivan, did foresters deny Mr. Norman's claim to Andre Montgomery life insurance policy? In part because it determined that Andre Montgomery did not authorize that
Judge,
policy.
foundation and hearsay. He was ready.
Where we at? I lost my
Rephrase the question.
11.
Oh. Wait, 11? Wait. Yeah,
Did-
down too far. We
Did
on page
for-
11?
No, we're on page
Rephrase
23,
the
line
question.
11.
Oh, sorry.
Did Forrester deny the claim in part because it determined that Andre Montgomery had not authorized the policy?
Objection, Judge, foundation and hearsay. We have been through this 3 times now.
Oh, you know how to count?
Again, counsel, approach the sidebar.
Now I'm starting to remember this part because we're like, what the hell is happening? Because it was like a stalemate. It was like you could tell Gwendolyn Carroll was trying to get to a place with him that Mr. Leonard didn't want to happen. And so almost everything she said, he was like up and contesting it.
That's how I lost my spot. I'm like, is it my turn?
So the proceedings were held at sidebar.
I may have misunderstood the court, but I thought that was the question.
The issue, I say, is did foresters deny the policy? They denied it because they believed that he didn't authorize the policy.
But that's the issue, Judge. That's based on hearsay statements given to them by third parties. She can ask the question you just told her to pose. You told her, did foresters deny the claim? His response is yes. And then we are done with it.
But he can say the reasons why they denied the claim. He can't, however, give an inference of hearsay or a hearsay answer. So he can't say that he talked to the St. Louis Police Department or he talked to a fingerprint. I'm sorry, a handwriting expert, if you will let me be correct. He can't say those things, and I agree that's clear. What's relevant is that he denied the claim for a variety of reasons, but he can't give an inference of hearsay or hearsay. So you have to limit it very specifically. The 3 reasons. What do you believe those 3 reasons are?
There is actually a letter that reports those reasons. It was written by Mr. Sullivan. The first reason is the letter that was sent to Mr. Norman is that foresters concluded that Andre Montgomery did not authorize the application. The second reason is that they found inconsistencies in the applications between what represented in the application and what was actually true. And the third reason is that they found there was non-legitimate insurable interest and that the uncle did not, in fact, have the insurable interest on his nephew's life. Those are the three reasons.
Okay.
Judge, the first is based upon the first that it wasn't authorized is based on hearsay. Statements given to them by the St. Louis Police Department.
How is it not hearsay?
Your Honor, because it is not being offered for its truth. It is being offered to explain the denial of the claim. I am happy to have the court give a limiting instructions that is not being offered for its truth. It is just being offered for the subsequent conduct of Forrester because after the claim is denied, Mr. Norman retains an attorney because of denial.
But the only thing that's relevant is that they had not found reasons to deny the claim.
We are not contesting the denial, Judge. We agree it was denied.
Actually, you have proven inconsistencies. The issue is, again, you can't ask him about an answer that suggests that he is relying on hearsay from the St. Louis Police Department or a handwriting expert. That's the troublesome part. To the extent that they did an investigation, you haven't presented that evidence. That's not before the jury. So the question is, he can say that the claim was denied. And that's really the relevant issue. The claim was denied, and he took certain actions after that. That explains the subsequent conduct. Now, he doesn't have to say that he relied on the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. So,
for the record, we will stipulate that we agree. We will stipulate that it was denied. We will stipulate that we are not going to raise in closing argument the reason for the denial.
You have actually shown inconsistencies in the policy. So I think he can testify about that. The issue about an insurable interest, I don't know where you want to go with that. There has been conflicting testimony about that. There has been some testimony. Now, again, I think this issue of whether or not Andre Montgomery participated, at least at this point, there is no direct evidence whether he did or he didn't, and say that that's the reason for the denial. I think it necessarily requires an inference of hearsay or action of hearsay. So I'm going to limit you to that.
Okay, thank you.
Then the proceedings resumed in open court.
Counsel, you may proceed.
Mr. Sullivan, did Forrester deny James Norman claim to Forrester's life insurance policy?
Is it okay if I answer this time? Okay, no rebuttals. All right. Yes, we did.
At some point after the denial, did Mr. Norman retain an attorney who also attempted to collect on his behalf on the Forrester life insurance policy?
I believe it was before that denial that he retained an attorney.
At some point, did the attorney contact Forrester on Mr. Norman's behalf trying to claim on the policy?
Yes.
Was a recording of that call made?
Yes.
Have you reviewed that recording?
Yes, I have, and I chuckled.
Was there a transcript also prepared on that recording?
Yes.
And have you reviewed that transcript?
Yes, I have.
Does it accurately reflect the contents of the recording?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, this is Government's Exhibit 17E.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, you will be guided by the instructions I give you with regard to the transcript.
Your Honor, just for record purposes, we renew our motion in limine, except on the issue that's raised by this.
And the objection for the reasons previously stated in the written order, the objections will be overruled. You may proceed.
Mr. Sullivan, did Mr. Norman end up continuing to pursue the claim on Andre Montgomery's life insurance policy? Excuse me.
Yes, he did.
Did Forrester ever pay that policy out?
Of course we did not.
What does it mean to refund the premiums of the policy?
That means we give the premiums back to the owner of the policy in the event we don't pay the claims are rescinded. So we put both parties back to the way they were before the contract was taken out.
Was that the description in the call regarding the check that had been sent to Mr. Norman? Was that the refund of premiums?
That was a refund of premiums, but in a sense, we didn't get all the information we were requesting at the time. So as to not necessarily make a decision to finalize the claim, we gave the refunded premium back and advised if he wanted to continue the claim, he could and reopen it. We would ask for the information at that time that he had not provided.
At some point, did you receive an affidavit signed by Mr. Norman?
Yes, we did.
Could you please pull up page 22 of 17B? Mr. Sullivan, is this the affidavit sent by Mr. Norman to Forrester's?
Yes, it is.
Looking at this paragraph, here beginning Andre Montgomery, could you please read that to the jury?
Andre Montgomery was 19 years old at the time of his death. He was a healthy individual.
Mr. Sullivan, based off of the review of the application and the file in this matter, was Andre Montgomery 19 years old at the time of his death?
No, I don't believe so.
The paragraph being Mr. Montgomery did not have, please read that to the jury.
Mr. Montgomery did not have a primary care physician and consequently does not have medical records from 2004 through 2014.
And could you please go side by side with page 4? Mr. Sullivan, in the death claim submitted by Mr. Norman, what did he tell Forrester about Andre Montgomery's medical treatment and records?
That he was a patient at some point at People's Health Clinic.
What did he say to the affidavit he sent when he was still trying to collect on the policy?
That he was, because he was lying, does not have a primary care physician, and he does not have medical records from the time period as.
Mr. Sullivan, did Forrester ever determine that James Timothy Norman was a qualified beneficiary who is entitled to a life insurance paid out on Andre's life?
We determined he was not.
No
Mr.
further
Mr. Leonard, Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, Judge. So, he was just telling them it's their time. So Mr. Leonard starts. Mr. Sullivan, I don't want to get into too much insurance jargon or truth, but one of the first things you talked about today was this concept of the insurance policy was for 200, right?
Yes.
And then you said that there is a couple of other things that were added, which were accidental death for 200 and then a term rider for 50, right?
Yes.
Y'all see how he not saying 100 like K, like
Mm-hmm.
200,000 and 50,000. He's trying to make it not sound as high as what it is, or ridiculous as it is. And the way those things would be added up would be the agent Mr. Yagnam checking some boxes to add those additional coverages, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were asked questions about Mr. Norman and Mr. Yagnam calling to collect on the insurance benefit, right?
Yes.
Owners of the policy call your company all of the time to collect their insurance benefits, don't they?
Yes.
And likewise, agents call your company all of the time to collect on insurance benefits, don't they?
Yes.
That's part of their job, right?
Right. Part for you do your job correct, right?
So, Mr. Yagnam appears to be doing his job. Is that right?
Yeah.
Objection for speculation?
The objection is overruled.
Thank you,
You
sorry.
can answer, sir.
Yes.
I want to talk to you for a second, sir, about the call that we just listened to, okay? I believe the first one was 17C and 17C-1. That's where Mr. Yagnam, the insurance agent, calls your company, right?
Yes.
Oh, hold on, my computer froze. Here we go. Tim Norman wasn't on that call, was he?
No.
You have no factual basis that Tim Norman told Yagnam to call your company, do you, sir?
I don't believe we asserted that, but no.
And when Mr. Yagnam calls your company, he asks a basic question. I quote, is the policy still enforced? Is that right?
Yes.
A normal question you get all of the time from insurance agencies, right?
Yes.
And he doesn't ask for money in that tape, does he? He doesn't ask for
No,
any
he does
money, does
not.
he, sir?
No, he does not, I said.
He doesn't ask when any money is going to come, does he, sir?
No.
And in that call with Yagnam, it is your company that tells Mr. Yagnam to have Mr. Norman call your company, right?
I believe so.
I can replay it for you if you want, but I think it is clear your company says to Mr. Yagnam, have Mr. Norman call us. Do you disagree with that?
Say the person that held up court, but no, I don't.
Okay. And your company says, and I quote, have your client call in to file a claim to Mr. Yagnam, right?
Yes.
So you have 2 times your company telling Mr. Yagnam to have Mr. Norman contact your company, right?
Yes.
And then there is the 3rd time on that tape, Mr. Sullivan, where your company says if the client wants to call somebody, they can call us for assistance, right?
Yes.
So 3 times your company tells Yagnam to tell Mr. Norman to call your company, right?
Yes.
And let's shift gears just for a second. Counsel asked you about the concept which you have heard a lot about. So I'm not going to cover too much premiums. You know what premiums are, right?
Obviously, you didn't, but yes.
That's so insulting. That is so insulting. To a vice president, you know what premiums are, right?
I know,
So
right?
ignorant. Typically, the owner of an insurance policy pays the premiums, right?
I guess you're reminding yourself, but correct.
All of the time, correct, sir?
Correct.
Nothing unusual about that, is there?
No.
Of course, Mr. Norman was the owner of the policy and he paid the premiums, didn't he, Mr. Sullivan?
Well, when you're trying to put a contract killing out, yes, I guess he would.
Let's go to the call that we heard made by Tim Norman. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Hold on, Okay, here we go. And seemingly, he is doing what your company told him to do 3 times. He is calling your company, right?
Yes.
And what's the date of that call?
I know you know, but I'll remind you. I believe it's March 21st, 2016.
And you send a response. You send him a document, right?
Yes.
Your company sends Mr. Norman a document that asks him to resubmit it to your company, correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't sent back for 2 months or so, right?
He was thinking about lies. So, yeah, when you're going to lie, that sounds correct. Yes.
It doesn't seem to be any hurry to collect this, does it?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
The speculation is sustained.
And on that document, People's Health Clinic is listed, right?
Yes.
There is no verbiage about Betty Jean Kerr. Mr. Norman doesn't say anything about Betty Jean Kerr on his document, does he?
No, it did not say that.
Okay, can you pull up the section, that section 3 of the document? Can you make section 3 a little larger, please? Mr. Norman, are you familiar with the section 3 of the claim form that Mr. Norman submitted back to your company after your company told him to do it? Aren't you, sir?
Yes.
And I may not read as well as you, but I'm going to read section 3 where it says medical information. And I want you to tell me if I have read that correctly. Okay, sir?
Well, you need to get my name right. I'm not Mr. Norman. I'm Mr. Sullivan, but okay.
And I quote, please provide the name and address of the primary treating physician or medical facility where the deceased was treated during the past 5 years. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did.
I read the or a little bit loudly. Did I? What?
Yes.
So it is either, right? Either give us the name of a primary treating physician or give us somewhere where the deceased, Andre Montgomery, went during the last 5 years, right?
Yes.
So if Andre Montgomery didn't have a primary treating physician, Mr. Norman wasn't required to give that to you, was he, sir?
First of all, get your facts straight. He was required to tell us that he didn't as part of our claims review.
It says or. This form says or. Give us one or the other, doesn't it?
Yeah, the word or is there. Yes.
Yeah, your company wrote that, didn't they?
Yes.
You choose that language, didn't you?
It says chose, but yes.
And so if Mr. Norman had a football physician within the last 5 years at the People's Health Clinic, that would be a correct answer, right, Mr. Sullivan?
It would be a correct answer.
A correct, it is an or, so it would a correct answer, right?
You can't even talk right.
Right.
Counsel. Now see here. It's argumentative. Pose another question to the witness.
Now, you also received a death certificate because that was required to be submitted, right?
Correct.
And you said that in June of 2016, Forrester said, hey, we couldn't find any documents at this Betty Jean Kerr place, right?
Yes.
Neither Mr. Yagnam nor Mr. Norman hadn't used the words Betty Jean Kerr, had they?
Not that I recall, no.
And by July 22nd of 2016, which is about 4 months after Andre's death, nobody had responded, right?
He hadn't responded because he was plotting still, trying to get some money to that question, yes.
And if Mr. Montgomery, Andre Montgomery, didn't have a regular primary physician, then there wouldn't be a name to provide as a primary physician, would there, sir?
No, they wouldn't be, but he didn't say it on those other life insurance policies.
Now, you also asked about this stuff towards the end where Mr. Norman gets an attorney, right?
Yes, he still didn't get the money.
That's a person's right to retain somebody like me or somebody else, right?
Like you, who's sorry, but sure, yeah.
It happens all of the time where attorneys call your company, right?
I wouldn't suggest it all the time.
It happens, doesn't it?
It does happen, and y'all still don't get the money.
Attorneys call your company and ask for information sometimes, right?
Yes.
Just like this woman attorney did, right? A woman.
She didn't
A
ask.
woman called y'all, right? Like, why is that important?
Yeah, we don't care if she was a woman. She didn't just ask for information. It was her contact with us.
I understand. That's one of the things she did, right?
You don't understand because I understand. That's one of the things she did, right? She more like demanded the information.
Okay. Okay. Was there something wrong with her calling up your company and, as you put it, demanding information? Was that wrong?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant speculation.
I'm getting tired of this. The objection is again overruled. You can answer if you know how to answer.
Her first contact with us was in a letter of correspondence where she threatened litigation and we didn't pay the claim. And we weren't going to pay him nothing because he didn't deserve it.
That's what attorneys do, right?
I'm not an attorney. You're a sorry attorney, so I don't know.
Yet your company, an insurance company, you would understand that your company gets threats of litigation all the time from people like me.
And we still didn't pay him, and we take them very seriously when we do, and he still didn't get any money.
Okay, so you know you get them, right?
Yes.
Computer freezing. And when she calls up and we listen to that long tape, not a heck of a lot happened over those 10 minutes, right?
Well, I guess when it's hard for you to pay attention, 'cause your attention span is short, I guess it depends on what you mean by not happening, I'm sure.
Well, let's talk about it.
Sure.
Your company asked this attorney to send them another fax, right?
Yeah, documentation of her representation.
And your company is telling her to send them something, right?
Right.
And she doesn't quite know what she's talking about because she calls Andre Montgomery the cousin of Tim versus the nephew, right?
So basically, you point out her incompetence, but yes, I think.
And she says that Andre Montgomery didn't have a regular physician during that time period. Doesn't she say that?
She does say that. You said that. Everybody said that.
That was true, wasn't it? Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
The objection is sustained.
You don't know whether that statement was true or false, do you, sir?
Unlike you, we didn't rely on that statement either over the phone. Just like when Tim was pretending to be Andre on the phone. We don't believe lies.
All I'm asking you is when she calls up and says that Andre Montgomery didn't have a primary doctor back in those days, you didn't know whether it was true or whether it was false, correct?
At that time, no, but then we knew it wasn't true, and that's why he didn't get the money.
And she says on the tape that Andre Montgomery was a healthy kid, right?
She did.
You don't know if that's true or not. You don't know if Andre Montgomery is healthy or unhealthy, right?
Yeah, you speaking in circles, but correct.
And eventually, the person on the phone from your company tells this attorney that the claim was never finalized, right?
Correct.
And then your company asks the attorney if Mr. Norman wants to reopen the claim, right?
Correct.
And it wasn't the attorney's first saying, quote, I want to reopen the claim. It was your company asking the attorney if the claim wanted to be reopened, right, sir?
That's a normal question, sir. If you was a real attorney, you would know that. But on the phone call, yes.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about on the phone call.
I had to remind you this. Okay, well, if you're talking about the letter from the attorney, it was prior to that phone call. Get your facts straight.
It's all about the phone call, sir. Did I state it correctly?
About time. Well, you're talking about the order in which it occurred.
I'm talking about the phone call. Are we on the same page?
Yes, we are.
Counsel, counsel, counsel. I'm getting tired of this. Pose another question.
And with respect to this concept of money you just talked about.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. When you say that.
Sure. With respect to the concept of money that they covered at the end, okay?
Yeah.
Norman Tim pays the premium to your company. Like we said, it happens all of the time by the owner, right?
Oh, he got a new name. Okay. Norman Tim? Yes. I thought his name was Tim Norman, but whatever.
And your company doesn't pay out 1 penny of that potential $450 in benefits, does it?
You mean $450,000? Because it wasn't no $450, but no.
Mr. Norman never gets any of the premium back, does he, sir?
No, I don't believe so, because he didn't deserve it.
Okay, let's talk about, finally, I believe, the affidavit you spoke about, sir, okay?
Okay.
That was submitted because your company asked for it, right?
Once again, we asked for confirmation about Mr. Montgomery's health history, since you want to talk in circles.
Yes, my question would be correct. It was submitted because your company asked for something like that, right?
It's not something like that, but yes.
And in the affidavit, does Mr. Norman get 19 versus 20 wrong?
Yes.
And you think that would have made a big difference in your company's consideration of the claim?
In the totality of things, it is important.
You had his birth certificate on file, didn't you?
Yes, Mr. Montgomery's. Yes.
Yeah, you had the death certificate too, right?
Yes, we did.
And in the affidavit, Tim Norman truthfully states that Andre Montgomery did not have a primary care physician, so no medical records were available. Is that correct?
Correct.
No further questions, sir.
You didn't have no questions.
Ms. Carroll, any other questions of the witness?
Mr. Sullivan, you mentioned during your cross-examination that phone call wasn't the only time that Mr. Norman used the attorney to try to collect on the policy. Is that correct?
Could you?
Page 21 of Government's Exhibit 17B.
Okay.
Objection. It is beyond the scope of. It was a non-responsive answer to the question.
Blah, blah, blah.
The objection is overruled.
What is the record? Can you please include the date also, please? What is the record in Mr. Sullivan?
This is a letter from the attorney representing Mr. Norman to foresters.
What is the date of that letter?
September 11, everybody rest in peace, 2018.
Can you read the sentence beginning with we have been authorized?
We have been authorized to file a lawsuit against your company for failure to comply with the prompt payment rule.
If Mr. Norman had not contacted Forrester multiple times attempting to collect on the policy, would Forrester have paid?
No, we don't pay blood money.
Who was initiating all those attempts to collect the policy?
Camel Hips, aka Mr. Norman.
No further questions.
Any other questions, Mr. Leonard?
Just one.
Oh, I'm so surprised.
When you got the letter from the attorney saying, I quote, "We might sue you," was that shocking?
It was not shocking at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the witness?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness then finally be excused.
He said, finally. Yes, Your Honor. As I take a bow.
You can step down, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a short recess at this time and stretch your legs. Get a drink of water or whatever else you drink. Again, I'll remind you of what I tell you at each recess or adjournment of the court. Keep an open mind about the case until it is finally given to you to decide. Don't talk to anyone in any manner about the case. Don't do any independent research of any kind into any of the issues. Again, this will be a brief break. So if you leave your notebooks there on the chair, we will take a short recess.
Okay, and so we're going to take a commercial break and give our cast a moment. I'm going to drop all y'all down, give them a moment for a restroom break, because right after this comes Terica Ellis. I will be next on the stand, so we're going to take a little commercial break and then my testimony.
I came back last time from being in St. Louis. He wasn't living with Robbie at the time. He came back and he said, Mom, he said, if anything ever happened to me, just know that Tim did it. What are you talking about? He said, well, just know Tim don't never do his own dirty work. But I got that fatal call from her about Dre. And I didn't want to answer the phone. You know, I just didn't want to answer the phone. And then she hung up and she called right back. And then that's when she was like, well, you know, the detectives was here. And already my heart is already slowing down, you know, and to the point where they want her to go down to the morgue to identify that was him. That was it. You know, it was like, it was so surreal. Everything was just rolling around. I'm just like, not my son. You know, not my son. Not my son.
All right, I'm back. Still waiting on the cast, but I said I'll give y'all go through the comments since it's hard to go through the comments and read, and y'all know I'm scrolling for y'all, so I can't. I'm only one man. So, let's see. Let me get back over to the comments. Let's see. Take a bow. Vell B and Precious. Yes, great job. Says whoever else is there, the judge and the other person reading. That would be Robert is playing Judge Ross today, and well, pretty much every day, every session he does a great job with it. And then Mocha Barbie, I forgot who she was playing today, but she was the other character, and Precious G and myself. Right, Camel His Blood Money. Ooh, chat just jumped. See God, you're good. Going to stop type. Okay. It's hard for me. Y'all just look like y'all mostly talking to each other. Here we go. Thank you, Alice, for this. Oh no, this is Ornette. But anyway, thank you. Please hit that subscribe button if you have not as of yet, and also hit the like button on this video to help this video and this channel grow. It's greatly appreciated. Looks like our cast may be back, and so we're about to resume with the testimony that many have been waiting for of Terica Ellis. And then after her testimony, I think is, I don't want to move my thing, but I think after her testimony is DJ Beats. So we start to move into some of the more familiar people who are part of Tim Noman's world. Now we're kind of getting out of the experts and getting into the other pieces of it. So I'm going to bring everyone back up, bringing Precious up and Robert and Mocha. And then I'm going to share our document. So it looks like we are ready to roll. Mocha, are you back? Only because I can't see your face. Just making sure before I get. Actually, I think we're good either way, though, because I think it's just.
I'm back.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we are resuming at 10:35 a.m. The proceedings stood in temporary recess. So I remember being there, and we knew Terica was coming next, and I couldn't wait. And so we went on break. It was more of a short recess. We come back in, and they automatically have, like, I go to the restroom or whatever, come back in the courtroom, and they have Terica already sitting in the witness stand. I think I saw them bring her in. I think I saw them bring her in. She's sitting there, and the Griggs family are directly across, like, it's a long distance away, but they are like eye shot directly in front of her. And then Tim is over there to the corner. She, the whole time while she's waiting on court to be called back from recess, she is sitting there. She's rocking. She's staring down at her feet, and she's just rocking. And then she has some tissue. I think they had tissue back there. So she's crying already. She's emotional already. You could see it was. And then you could tell she was trying she never really looked at Tim. I don't recall her. I think she avoided looking at him altogether. A couple times she glanced up at the Griggs family, but she wouldn't look long. It'd be like she was sneaking peeks at them. Very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to get into it. 10:35, the proceedings stood in temporary recess, and then we come back to order with Judge Ross.
Court will be back in session for a moment. If you'll have a seat. Counsel, Ms. Dennis, Ms. Carroll, the government's next witness is
Terica Ellis.
And we spoke off the record at the end of the day yesterday about possible instructions that might be given. And I know there was some reference to the model instruction 405B. And we discussed whether or not that would be read before her testimony or made as part of the final instruction. Now, I understand counsel had agreed that it would be just as part of the final instruction. Is that correct, Mr. Leonard?
Yes, Judge. That's my understanding. Well, when she starts testifying, you too.
Okay.
Okay. And that's the government's understanding as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to take up before Ms. Ellis?
May I have one moment to use the restroom?
Really, do really?
Yeah, you may, if it's that bad off. We're going to take a short break, and we will be in temporary recess for 10 minutes.
So then at 10:55 a.m., the proceedings resumed in open court.
Ms. Carroll, it is the court's understanding the next government witness is Terica Ellis. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Now, I directed Ms. Ellis to be up here on the witness stand. Ms. Ellis, if you will please stand up, the clerk will administer the oath. If you will raise your right hand. Ms. Ellis, I'm going to ask that you speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. It is important that the jury be able to hear you. Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And then Terica Ellis was sworn in. Direct examination begins.
Good morning, Miss Ellis.
Good morning.
I'm sorry.
You got to be ready.
You be ready, girl.
Miss Ellis, can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Terica Ellis.
Miss Ellis, how old are you?
I'm 38.
And you're currently incarcerated?
Yes.
Have you pled guilty to the charges in your case?
Yes.
Did you plead guilty to conspiracy to commit murder for hire?
Yes.
Have you been sentenced yet?
No.
Have you entered into a cooperation agreement with the government?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
You may.
Miss Ellis, I'm going to hand you what has been marked as identification purposes only as Government Exhibit 73. Miss Ellis, do you know what that is?
Should I read it?
No, Miss Ellis. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, that is the paper that I signed on August 17th of 2020 to give my testimony of what happened.
Is that your cooperation agreement?
Yes.
What do you understand your obligation are under that agreement?
To tell the truth?
And you're hoping for certain sentencing outcome in this case?
No.
Do you hope to receive a lower sentence?
I didn't understand that. Whatever I get is up to you and the judge.
Have I promised you anything in exchange for the testimony?
No.
How about Miss Dennis? Has Miss Dennis promised you anything in exchange for your testimony?
No.
Whose decision is it what your sentence is in this case?
The judge.
Miss Ellis, before you were incarcerated, where were you living?
Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Is that outside of Memphis?
Yes, right across the state lines.
How long were you living just outside of Mississippi?
A couple months.
What kind of work were you doing in 2016?
Exotic dancer and a prostitute.
Does that mean a stripper?
Yes.
Have you ever sold sex for money, Miss Ellis?
Yes.
Do you sometimes do that with people you met at the strip clubs?
Yeah.
How long have you been a dancer?
Since I was 16.
Before you were living in Memphis, where did you live?
I lived in Memphis my whole life. I, are you saying prior to I stayed in St. Louis?
Were you stripping while you were staying in St. Louis?
Yes.
Where did you work?
Bottoms Up in East St. Louis?
Do you know the defendant, James Timothy Norman?
Yes.
Do you see Mr. Norman in court today?
Yes.
Could you please identify him by something he is wearing?
A black shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that Ms. Ellis has correctly identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
What kind of a relationship do you have with Mr. Norman, Ms. Ellis?
Kind of like a friends with benefits.
Do you have a sexual relationship with him?
Yes.
Would Mr. Norman ever give you money?
Yes.
Were you getting paid for having sex with Mr. Norman?
You can say that, yes.
How long have you known Mr. Norman?
Since 2011.
How did you meet him?
At Bottoms Up.
Is that the club in East St. Louis?
Yes,
After you met Mr. Norman, would you meet up with him occasionally?
Well, originally I met him and then we seen each other at a restaurant, like a wing place. Remember I told y'all that? She said wing place. Like a wing place. And we exchanged numbers and then we started to meet up. I remembered that because I was like, what? A wing place? It was just funny the way she said it.
How would you arrange those meetings?
Through phone.
What would typically happen between you and Mr. Norman at those meetings?
I would meet him at the hotel and we would have sex. We would talk. We would have sex. He would give me money and then we would part ways.
In March of 2016, were you dancing at the club in St. Louis?
Yes.
Were you living? Where were you living though?
I was living in Memphis.
So what was your schedule for coming to St. Louis to dance?
I would come on Thursday and leave on Sundays typically, unless I had a job.
How did you get from Memphis to St. Louis when you were dancing on the weekends?
I drove.
When were you dancing on the weekends in St. Louis? Did you ever meet Andre Montgomery?
Yes.
Did you exchange contact information with him?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I was dancing for him and he was spending money. He asked if I could link up after the club. I told him yeah, and we exchanged numbers.
Were you Facebook friends with Andre Montgomery?
I recently found out that I was.
How many Facebook friends do you think you have?
I have about 5,000.
How do you sort of advertise for your clients where you are dancing or where you are going to be?
On my social media, my Facebook and my Instagram pages.
So in social media, one of your ways of getting clients, making money, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Is the defendant, Mr. Norman, also one of your Facebook friends?
Yes.
I'm not a Facebook user, but do you have privacy settings on your Facebook account?
Well, I have it to where if you are not my friend, you can only see a few things. But if you are my friend, you can see everything. All of me. Like when I'm in the club.
So then your friends can see who all of your other friends are.
Yeah,
Did you come to St. Louis to dance the weekend of March 11, 2016?
Yes.
Before you came to St. Louis that weekend, did you let the defendant know you were coming?
Yeah, I had talked to him earlier that week. I FaceTimed him to see what he was up to, and he was going to be in town. And he said no, he was busy, and he was in California.
Did you put up any posts on social media at all, sort of saying you were coming to town this weekend?
Yes.
What nights did you dance on the weekend?
For those asking if this actually sounds like Terica's voice, yes, she did sound like this. Probably from 11 p.m. to probably 6 in the morning.
Was that a weekend when you came up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday?
Yes. Uh-huh.
On March 14th, did Mr. Norman reach out to you via Facebook?
Yes.
Please pull up Government's Exhibit 29, page 3. Miss Ellis, I know this looks a little funky, but your Facebook name is Terica Ellis?
Yes.
And Tim Norman, was that Mr. Norman's Facebook name?
Yes.
Looking at the message sent March 14, 2016, what does Mr. Norman ask you in that message?
Did I change numbers?
Did you respond later that morning?
Yes, I did.
What did you tell Mr. Norman?
I said, yeah, and gave him the number. I sent him my number.
Was that the number you were using on March 14, 2016 in the morning?
Yes.
After you sent Mr. Norman your contact number, did Mr. Norman reach out to you?
Yes, he texted me on my cell phone.
Was that the 5151 cell number?
Yes.
Please pull up Government Exhibit 2H. Miss Ellis, that number there, 5151, was that the phone number you were using at the point to talk to Mr. Norman?
Yes.
Could you go to the messages that appear on the second photo there? Now, Miss Ellis, looking at the photograph of Tim Norman's cell phone, are you the blue bubbles or the gray bubbles?
I'm the gray bubbles.
And who is the blue bubbles?
Tim.
What time does the message start exchanging back and forth between you and Mr. Norman?
It says 10:12 a.m.
Can you please read through the first messages that appear there?
Message from Tim Norman. Hey, trouble, with a smiley face. And I say, LOL, hi, hey. He said, you must be getting money. You keep changing your numbers, with a smiley face. And I said, LOL, that's all you know. I said, LOL, that's all you know. That know that. Then I said, what's up with you, stranger? And he said, where you at? And I said, and he's that'll make me lose character.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Mute yourselves when you crack it up. and he said, what city? And I said, I'm in STL, about to head to Memphis. And he said, when are you leaving? And I said, in a few, what's up? You in STL? And he said, yep.
And Miss Ellis, I know you said that those messages started at 10 in the morning. When had you gotten off work at the club that morning?
Like probably 6:30, baby.
So is this just kind of shortly after you got off of work?
Yeah, I took a nap getting ready to get on the highway.
Were you still in St. Louis when you got that message? These messages?
Uh-huh.
Can we keep going here on the next photo? Miss Ellis, can you read through for the jury that Mr. Norman is saying to you and how you are responding here?
It says, come see me from Tim. And I said, where you at? And he said, Chase. And then I said, okay, on my way.
Miss Ellis, you tramp. Do you know what chase means?
Yeah, that's the hotel he normally stays at.
Was that the Chase Park Plaza?
Yes.
Where did you typically meet up with Mr. Norman when you were in town?
Wherever he is at, and mostly that's where he was staying at.
After you got that message saying Chase, what did you do?
I started to head that way.
Please pull up Exhibit 42. Miss Ellis, do you know what that picture is of?
Yeah, that's Chase Park Plaza Hotel where Tim was staying.
Is that where you went the morning of March 14th after Mr. Norman messaged you?
Yes.
Please go to page 2 of 2H, looking at the message, beginning with, okay, here I come. Miss Ellis, were you making your way to the chase when you got these messages?
Yes.
Can you read through these, please?
I text at 11:14. Ain't nobody coming. And then he texts back, no. Then he said, okay, here I come. And I said, okay. Then he said he was on the elevator.
Miss Ellis, are you speaking in the gray messages or the blue messages?
Oh, I'm in the gray. I'm sorry. Okay. So he texted in the blue, ain't nobody coming. And I said, no. Then he said, okay, here I come. And then I said, okay. And then he said he was on the elevator. And then I said, okay.
Your Honor, move to amid governments 42.
Exhibit 42. That's the photo of the hotel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 42 will be admitted.
Please publish to the jury, Miss Ellis. Is this where you were meeting Mr. Norman that morning, March 14th, 2016?
Yes.
Did you go to Mr. Norman's room?
Yes.
What happened once you got there?
We walked into the room and we got right to it, having sex.
Did you use condoms?
Yes.
After you had sex with Mr. Norman, what happened?
We showered and took turns showering.
Did you speak at all?
What?
Did you speak at all?
Yeah. We started talking as we were getting dressed and just talking about life and plans and stuff. And I was just telling him about my boutique and stuff that I was working on opening. And he was telling me about, everything with California and the fashion district and all the stuff there. And then I was asking him what he was doing in town because he wasn't, last time I talked to him, he was busy and he wasn't going to be in town. And he said that he was in town because his nephew had broken to his mom's house and stole money and jewelry from out of her house. And he was trying to find his nephew so he could get back what he hadn't gotten rid of.
Did Mr. Norman at some point show you a photo of the person he said was his nephew?
Yes, he showed me a photo of him and asked me if I had seen him in the club.
What did you say?
When he showed me the photo, I said, yeah, I had just recently exchanged numbers with him.
Please pull up Exhibit 39. Do you recognize the person in the picture?
Yes, that's Andre.
How do you know that that's Andre?
His green dress and his face.
Now, is this the photo that Mr. Norman showed you?
No.
In the photo that Mr. Norman showed you, did Andre Montgomery have this hairstyle?
Yes.
Have you communicated with Andre at all before Mr. Norman showed you Andre's photo that day in the hotel?
Yes.
What kind of communication had you had?
We had been texting days prior to that.
After you told Mr. Norman that you would know the person in the photo, what did he do?
He told me if I could help him find him, that he would give me $10,000.
Had Mr. Norman ever given you that much money before?
No.
How much money would he typically give you when you were meeting up with him to have sex?
Probably $1,000.
What did you say?
Probably $1,000. Oh, no. I asked him what I had to do. He just said that I needed to just help him locate him.
Did you agree to do that?
Yes.
Why?
To help him get the money back and for him to give me the $10,000.
Did Mr. Norman pay you right then?
He paid me before we left the room.
Okay. Did you go about finding did you go about trying to find Andre?
Yes, I text Andre and he texted me back. And when Andre started texting me back, he told me to ask Andre what's his IG name.
Hold on, my screen dropped down, guys. I'm sorry. I can't find the screen. Sorry.
Okay.
Someone else is going to have to take my part for a second.
Oh, okay, Precious, can you do it? Line 21.
21, okay. Was he telling you or instructing you about what you're supposed to be saying? That one?
21, line 21.
I'm
Okay.
here. I'm back.
Oh.
Okay. Did Mr. Norman say anything to you at all about having a life insurance policy on Andre when he was offering you this $10,000?
No, he only said he wanted to get back whatever that he had and that he didn't get rid of, that he got out the house, like whatever money or jewelry he had left.
Please pull up 4K, please. These are the photos from Andre Montgomery's phone. Miss Ellis, is this that same phone number that you were communicating with Mr. Norman on?
Yes.
After Mr. Norman offered you $10,000, did you start texting with Andre?
Yes, I did.
Please look at the messages that appear on the second photo. Thank you. Miss Ellis, same question. Are you the gray bubbles or the blue double in these messages?
I'm the gray bubbles.
What time did you start messaging Andre?
At 12:13 p.m.
Please go side by side with Mr. Norman's phone, page 2. Miss Ellis, the timestamp that appears on your last message with Mr. Norman, what was that time right there?
11:16 a.m.
And then the timestamp on your first message to Andre, what timestamp is on that?
12:13 p.m.
So about how far apart are they?
About an hour.
Did you start messaging Andre after you had gone to the hotel room and had sex with Mr. Norman?
Yes.
Looking at the messages that appeared there at 12:13 p.m. on March the 14th, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Can you please read through these messages you had with Andre and say who is saying what?
Okay, I text Andre at 12:13 p.m. I said, "What's up? Trying to see you before I leave. I don't need no money." Wow, I forgot about this. And he texts back and he said, "You can. I'm here at the La Quinta." I have been shooting these music videos all week. We were supposed to come up there and shoot, but the owner be tripping. And then I text back at 12:16. I said, text me the address. I'm about to come now. And then I text and said, you got an IG?
Where were you when you were sending these messages with Andre?
In the hotel with Tim.
Where was Tim while you were texting with Andre?
He was right there with me.
What was he telling you or instructing you about what you were supposed to be saying?
He told me to ask him his IG, and he told me to find out where he was. Then when he texted me back his IG and the address, and he texted me back, what's your IG?
Miss Ellis, what did Mr. Norman tell you about why he wanted you to find Andre's IG, his Instagram name?
He wanted to make sure that it was the right person.
Okay. So what reason did he give you for telling you to find Andre's Instagram name?
He wanted to make sure that it was his nephew.
When Andre gave you his IG account, what name did he give you?
Dre Montgomery.
What did Mr. Norman say when Mr. Montgomery told you his Instagram account was Dre Montgomery?
I showed it to him.
What did he say?
He said that was him.
After you got that Instagram account information, what messages did you exchange with Andre next?
I sent him my Instagram name. Then I said, okay, on my way. What's your room number? And then I texted and said about to stop and get something to eat. Do you want something?
Miss Ellis, that address, 318 Teller Road. Do you know what that is?
That's the La Quinta Hotel.
Can you please show Miss Ellis Exhibit 44? Do you recognize what 44 is there?
Yes.
What is that?
That's the La Quinta Hotel. That's the hotel Andre was at.
Move to admit, Your Honor.
Any objection, counsel?
No, Judge.
Then Exhibit 44 will be admitted.
Please go side by side with 4K and the 318 Teller Road address. Miss Ellis, that photo on the of the hotel that appears on the right-hand side, is that the address that Andre Montgomery was texting you at 12:20 p.m.?
Yes.
Where was Mr. Norman when you got that text from Andre telling you where he was?
He was right there.
What was Mr. Norman's behavior like?
He was getting his stuff together, like getting ready. So, putting all of his stuff together so we could leave the hotel.
Who was coming up with the messages to send to Andre?
Tim.
After you got the location from Andre for the La Quinta Inn, what did Mr. Norman tell you to do next?
He said that we were going to go to Walgreens and get another phone, a prepaid phone.
At this point, had Mr. Norman paid you yet?
He paid me right before we walked out the door.
So then, right after you got that Teller Road address for Mr. Montgomery?
Yes.
How much money did he give you?
$10,000.
Where was the money in the hotel room?
It was in a black bag.
Did you count it when he gave it to you?
No.
Did you remember what it looked like, how it was organized, anything like that?
It was just folded up.
After Mr. Norman paid you, what did you do?
We left the hotel and we met each other at the Walgreens.
Why were you going to Walgreens?
To purchase a different phone.
Whose idea was it for you to buy a different phone?
Tim, he wanted me to talk to Andre on a different phone.
Did he tell you anything about what phone he was using?
Yeah, he showed me the phone that he had, and he told me to buy a phone similar to that.
Are you familiar with the terms prepaid phone, Miss Ellis?
Yes.
Was that the kind of phone you were supposed to get at Walgreens?
Yeah, prepaid phone.
Please show Miss Ellis government's 43. Miss Ellis, you recognize government's 43?
Yes.
That's the Walgreens that you went to?
Well, it's probably, what's that?
Oh.
That's the Walgreens we went to.
Was that the Walgreens that you went to? Is that me still?
No, that's not.
I'm sorry.
Then you jump down to Miss Carol.
Okay. I moved to government's 43, Your Honor.
Any objection to Exhibit 43?
No.
Then Exhibit 43 will be admitted.
Miss Ellis, how did you get to this Walgreens?
Drove.
Did you drive in separate vehicles?
Yes, separate vehicles, yes.
What car were you driving?
I was driving my Acura.
What about Mr. Norman?
He was driving his Cadillac truck.
Miss Ellis, it's a touchscreen monitor. If you can look at the picture and show the jury where you and Mr. Norman parked at Walgreens.
I was parked right here, indicating. And she's at the witness stand. There was a small computer monitor, and it was touch screen, so she could show them what she was pointing at, show the jury, because they had a big screen in front of them. He was parked right here.
What did you do once you and Mr. Norman pulled into the parking lot of Walgreens?
I went to purchase the phone, and I came out and got in the car with him, and he started setting up the phone while I text Andre back.
Who was setting up the prepaid phone you brought?
Tim.
What instructions did Mr. Norman give you about who you were supposed to contact on that prepaid phone?
He said I needed to talk to him and Dre on the phone.
Can you please go to Andre's phone again, Exhibit 4K, page 2? Miss Ellis, these messages, it looks like there is a little gap right there from 12:33 to 1:28 p.m. What were you doing?
Okay, I need to do a quick poll with our cast. Do you guys want to continue to just get to the end of this part of her testimony and do the cross-examine next week, or do you need to break now?
How much longer is the testimony, Vell?
I cannot say for sure because I don't know the pacing, but probably maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
How about
I'm fine with it.
Fresh? Okay, so once we get done with that part, then we're done. This part, and then the cross-examine with Leonard will be next week.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that was me. It was at the Walgreens.
About how long do you think it took Mr. Norman to set up the prepaid phone he told you to buy?
Probably about 45 minutes.
Okay. At 1:28 p.m., what did Mr. Montgomery tell you?
He said, "Where you at?" I text back. I said, "Just left the steakhouse on my way."
Were you really at a steakhouse?
No.
Where were you?
At the Walgreens.
Were you still using your original phone at this point in time?
Yes.
After your prepaid phone got set up, did you switch over to using that phone?
Yes.
So is that the steakhouse message? Was that the
last?
That's the last message you ever talked to Andre on the other phone?
Yes.
How did you communicate with Andre for the rest of March 14th day?
On the prepaid phone.
What happened after after you got the prepaid phone up and running?
I called Andre and I told him to call me and text me on that phone because the other phone was broke.
Oops. Where did you go? Did you say Walgreens?
No, I left and headed to La Quinta. Oh.
Can you pull up 44 again, please? Is this where you drove to, Miss Ellis?
Yes.
Who did you drive with? By yourself?
By myself.
Do you know where Mr. Norman was after you went to La Quinta Inn?
No.
Why do you go to the La Quinta?
To meet with Andre.
Who told you to do that?
Tim.
Once you got to the La Quinta, what happened?
I met with Andre. Him and some friends were in his hotel room smoking, and I went in and I talked to him for a few minutes. I'm like, was it supposed to be a train? Because I'm like, I thought y'all was supposed to be hooking up. I was always lost by this part of the testimony because it never got explained, but okay.
About how long would you say you were at the La Quinta?
Probably about 10 minutes, 15 at the max.
Now, at the La Quinta, why did you actually go there once you had Mr. Montgomery's location?
Tim told me to go there to make sure he was there.
After you met with Andre in the La Quinta room, what did you do?
I left, and when I left, I called Tim and told him that he was indeed there. And he told me he wasn't ready yet to find out where he was going to be next. And Andre told me that he was getting ready to go to the studio and do a photo shoot. So I told Tim that Andre was getting ready to do a photo shoot and the video shoot in the studio. And he said where he was going next. So he told me to find out the next address. I believe something happened in that hotel room. That part of the story is just, it's some too many gaps for me.
Mm-hmm. Please go to Andre's phone again, 4K, page 1, the third photo. Miss Ellis, these are the text messages that you said you were using, excuse me, were using your original phone on.
Yes.
What is the Instagram name that you gave Mr. Montgomery?
Alexis the Great.
Sorry. And please take that down and pull up 4E. Miss Ellis, that contact that appears in Andre Montgomery's phone, what is that contact?
Alexis the Great.
In government's 4E, your text messages with Mr. Montgomery using your prepaid phone?
Yes.
Please pull up 4H. Miss Ellis, this photograph of Andre's phone that Alexis the Great contact was in the phone number that is saved for Alexa the Great?
It's the phone number.
Do you recognize that number?
Yes.
Was that number?
That's the number to the prepaid phone that I was using.
Where did you get that prepaid phone?
Walgreens.
Who told you to get it?
Tim.
Please go to 4E. The messages that appear in the first photo there, Miss Ellis, are you looking at the exchange you had with Mr. Montgomery using that prepaid phone?
Yes.
Looking at the timestamp at the top of those messages, were you sending these messages back and forth with Mr. Montgomery?
Starting at 2:25 p.m.
Okay. When does that contact to the time that you actually saw Mr. Montgomery at the La Quinta?
That's like after I saw him.
Had you talked to Mr. Norman and confirmed that Mr. Montgomery was at the La Quinta?
Yes.
Why were you sending these messages at this point?
Tim told me to make sure I stay in contact with him and get his next location. So he told me to stay in constant communication with him.
And the him, is that Mr. Montgomery?
Yeah, with Andre.
Who is instructing you to stay in constant contact with Andre?
Tim.
These messages were the you cute. Can you just read a couple of those for the jury, please?
Okay, I text Andre, you cute as hell. He said, thanks. He said, thanks. My ass text your other number. He said, you too, you bad too. And then I said, you can delete that number. It is about to get cut off. And I ain't getting it fixed. And thanks.
Miss Ellis, that other number, was that your original phone number?
Yes.
Was it true that that number was about to get cut off?
No. Tim told me to tell him that I broke the phone and that I wasn't going to have that number anymore, just to contact me on the other phone.
How are you getting a hold of Mr. Norman to update him on Andre's location?
On his other phone?
On Mr. Norman's prepaid phone?
Yes.
How did you know the number for Mr. Norman's phone?
He put it in there when he activated the other phone. Once it was activated, he put that number in there.
So when Mr. Norman gave you the number of his prepaid phone?
Yeah, so I can contact him on that number.
Did you kind of keep going back and forth with Andre for the afternoon of March 14th?
Yeah,
Why were you doing that?
So I could keep track of him.
Why did you need to keep track of him?
Tim wanted me to keep track of him so I could find out where he was going next while Tim was doing whatever he was doing.
Who were you supposed to update when you got a location information on Andre?
Tim.
Please pull up 4E page 3. Miss Ellis, what time are these messages being exchanged between you and Andre?
3:49.
How are you now? Are you green or gray?
I'm green.
You sure are. Take a second look at these messages.
No, I'm sorry. He is green. I'm gray.
So can you read the first message that Mr. Montgomery has there?
He said, what you doing after you get your nails done? And I said, I'm going to the mall.
What mall are you talking about?
The Galleria.
Did you actually go to the Galleria?
Yes.
Why?
I went there to do some shopping in Style Town. And
where did you shop when you were at the Galleria?
I shopped at the Buckle, and I also changed my other phone number.
When you say you changed your other phone number, what do you mean?
I had the number changed.
Are you talking about the original phone that you had? Wasn't that the prepaid phone?
Yes.
Why did you have to get a new original phone? Why did you have to get a new number?
Tim told me to get a new number and get rid of the old number and get a new number.
Were you kind of trying to kill time at the Galleria that afternoon?
Yes.
Were you still sort of going back and forth with Andre?
Yes.
About how long were you saying you were at the Galleria?
Probably about 3 or 4 hours.
Can you please go to page 3 of 40? Miss Ellis, I know you said now that you did some sleeping and the name of the store you gave. What was that store?
The Buckle.
For the people that don't know, what kind of store is that?
It's like an urban clothing store for men and women.
What did you buy while you were at the Buckle?
I bought some clothes, and while I was on the phone with Andre, he asked me to pick him up an outfit as well.
Can you please look at the messages that appear at the 5:37 timestamp?
What time are you going to the fairground to shoot the video?
Now, are you talking there or is Andre talking?
That's me talking.
What is fairground?
That's the park, Fairground Park. That's where he said he was shooting his video at.
How does Mr. Montgomery respond?
Around 7, but we are headed that way now. So call me when you leave the mall.
After Mr. Montgomery told you that he was going to go to fairground around 7, what did you do?
I called and told Tim.
Why did you do that?
Because he told me to keep him updated.
At some point when you were at the Galleria, did Tim Norman tell you to contact not just him but someone else?
Yes, when I called Tim to tell him the address to where Andre sent me, he told me to call his homeboy and give it to his homeboy. He gave me the number.
Did you know who Tim homeboy was?
No, but he said that he was busy and his homeboy would know what to do.
I just want to make sure that I understand this right. Who told you to call Tim's homeboy?
Tim did.
What reason did Mr. Norman give you for calling Tim's homeboy?
Tim said he was busy, and so he told me to give the address to his homeboy. He said his homeboy would know what to do.
He said his homeboy would know what to do?
Uh-huh.
Please go to page 4 of 4E. Miss Ellis, I know you mentioned the clothing. That message there, can you read the message from you to Andre?
What size shirt did you say? And he said large. And I said K. And then he said, I'm in the basement. The call keep dropping. And I said, I thought you were on your way to the fairground. And Andre said, I'm here at the studio across from the fairground. We supposed to be shooting the rest of the video today, and I'm trying to see what's up.
Miss Ellis, if you know, is Natural Bridge Road right across from Fairground Park?
Yes.
Please go to the rest of the messages there, Miss Ellis. I just want to make sure everyone understands. These are all still happening on March 14th of 2016, right?
Yes.
Was that the day that Andre died?
Yes.
The message here beginning at, okay, I'm leaving. Can you please read those to the jury?
I text Andre at 7:06 and he said, okay, I'm leaving the mall. Wait, okay, I'm leaving the mall. And he said, text me 3969 Natural Bridge.
What did you do after Andre told you he was at 3964 Natural Bridge?
That's when I called Tim and gave him the address.
What did Tim tell you to do?
That's when he told me to call his homeboy and give his homeboy the address that he would know what to do.
Did you do what Tim told you? Did you call his homeboy?
Yes.
Did you recognize the voice you were talking to?
No.
A man? A woman?
A man.
Had you ever spoken to this person before?
No.
Okay, why did you call Tim's homeboy?
Tim told me to call him.
What information did you give Tim's homeboy when you called him?
I gave him the address and told him that I was going to take Andre some clothes.
What did he say?
He told me to call him when I was close.
Did he give you any other instructions about what you should do once you got to Natural Bridge?
No. Well, When I called him, when I was close, he told me to make sure to come outside. He told me to make sure he come outside. But I was already taking him some clothes. So I didn't understand why he would say that.
To make sure who came outside?
Andre.
What did you do after you got that address and called Tim's homeboy? What did you do next?
I went to Andre.
How did you get there?
I drove.
Was that to the house on Natural Bridge?
Yes.
What did you do when you got to the house?
I called Andre and told him I was outside.
Where did you park?
I parked down the street because it wasn't anywhere to park. So I parked like down the street from the house. Like, I guess, a house over.
Please pull up 55A. Do you recognize this, Miss Ellis?
Yes.
What is this?
That's where Andre was.
Can you see in this photo where you parked that night on March 14th?
No.
Did you park sort of further up to the left in what we can see in that photo?
Yes.
Okay. About how far away from the house did you think you were?
About the beginning of the next one, I would say.
That's when I called. Okay. Once you pulled up to the house, what did you do?
That's when I called Andre and told him I was outside.
What happened next?
He came outside and got in the car, and I handed him the bag of clothes, and we talked for a minute, and he was asking me what I was about to do, and I told him I was going to get on the highway and head home, and he was saying he didn't want me to go home. He wanted me to stay and see me later. His phone rang, and when his phone rang, he was getting ready to get out. I got a text message on my phone saying, "Move."
Miss Ellis, I'm going to ask you to take a look closer at the photo exhibit 55A. Do you recognize the bag in that photo?
Yes, that's the bag that Andre gave me. So that what she was showing her at that moment. And this guy, he didn't send me like a bunch of the evidence I was trying to get. He never sent. But what it was a picture of the clothing bag left on the ground from where Andre was, shot at. He dropped a bag and ran. And so they took a picture of the bag was still laying there on the sidewalk near the curb, full of clothes and everything. So that's what she's referring to here.
I read that. 17. Okay. Did he take that bag with him when he got out of your car?
Uh-huh.
Before you pulled up to Natural Bridge on your drive, did you call anyone on that way?
Yeah, I had called and told Tim's homeboy that I was close and that to where I was going.
When you were speaking with Andre in the car, about how long was that conversation?
A few minutes, probably.
You said you got a text message. Who sent you that message?
Tim's homeboy.
What did the message say?
Move.
Was Andre in the car or out of the car when you got that message?
No, he was getting out of the car.
Did you see where Andre went after he got out of the car?
When he was going back to the house.
What did you do after you got the text saying move?
I sped off.
What happened?
I heard gunshots.
What did you do?
I called Tim and I said, what the F happened? I said, I heard gunshots. And then he said, don't worry about it. Get on the highway and go home. I said, should I call Dre? And he said, no. And he said, don't tell nobody. And he said, I'll call you back. And I got on the highway. And while I was on the highway, Tim called me. And he told me to delete my Instagram page and to get rid of that phone when I got home. the prepaid phone, and he told me to call when I made it home or I was close to home.
Where did you go after you pulled away from the house on Natural Bridge?
I got on the highway.
Where did you drive?
To Memphis.
About how long did that drive take you, do you think?
Probably 3 hours, 3.5.
How many gunshots did you hear when you were pulling away?
I'm not sure.
When did you get to Memphis?
I don't know.
What did you do with the prepaid phone that Tim Norman told you to get rid of?
I threw it out of the car when I got to Memphis.
The next morning, the morning after you heard those gunshots and you drove away from Natural Bridge, what did you do with the $10,000 Tim paid you that afternoon?
I put it in the bank. Well, when I got home, I gave some to my cousin for keeping my daughters for me and bought some household stuff. But I put the rest in the bank.
Why was your cousin watching your kids?
Because I was out of town working.
Did you use First Horizon Bank?
First Tennessee.
Okay. Please show Miss Ellis government exhibit 26, page 9. Miss Ellis, is this the deposit slip for your cash deposit at the bank in Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay. What time that you made that cash deposit?
At 9 a.m.
What's the date?
3/15/16.
Is that the day after you got Andre Montgomery to come out of the house and pull away as you heard gunshots?
Yes.
How much money you deposited?
$3,020.
Damn, she spent almost all of it. Who gave you that amount that you put in the bank?
Tim.
Did you make another deposit that morning as well?
Yes.
That exhibit is in, Your Honor. Believe that I can publish to the jury?
I didn't hear the exhibit number, Ms. Carroll.
26, Your Honor.
Yes, it has been admitted.
Okay, Miss Ellis, what time did you make the first cash deposit?
9:27 a.m.
What date was that?
3/15/16.
How much money?
$3,020.
Was that the first of 2 cash deposits you made that morning?
Yes.
Please go to page 5. Same question, Miss Ellis. What time did this cash go into the bank?
9:25:01.
What day?
3/15/16.
Is that the day after Andre was murdered?
Yes.
How much cash did you put in?
$4,134.
Who gave you that money?
Tim.
Why?
So I can get the location of Andre.
A couple of days later, did you put in some more cash in the bank?
Yes.
Page 11, please.
Now what exhibit is this?
26, Your Honor.
Okay.
Miss Ellis, the date is a little difficult to read, but is that March 17th?
Yes.
Is that your bank deposit form?
Yes.
How much cash did you put in?
1,000.
Why did you split your deposit that way? Okay, now that makes sense. Doing some one day and some on another day.
Because I was always told you don't put 10,000 cash in the bank at one time.
Please go to page 12 or 26. What day did you put the cash in the bank, Miss Ellis?
3/17/2016.
How many days after Andre was murdered did you put that money in the bank? If he was murdered on the 14th.
3 days.
Who gave you that money?
Tim.
After you deposit the cash Mr. Norman has given you, did you speak to Mr. Norman?
So this is the other part too. They literally had all her deposit slips from the banks as evidence. The actual physical deposit slips with her signature and everything, her handwriting. You cannot get around the feds. Yes.
When was that?
I think a couple of days. It was I saw him on the 20th when I was in California. I think it was the 20th. I don't know. I talked to him. I went to California though, me and my mama and my daughter.
Had that trip been planned before the 14th?
Yes,
Why were you going to California?
So I could get some stuff I needed for my boutique.
Did you meet with Mr. Norman when you went out to California?
Yes, we met at a seafood restaurant. He took my mama out for her birthday.
Please show Miss Ellis Government's Exhibit 52. Miss Ellis, do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
What is it?
Hot and juicy crawfish.
Can you please admit Exhibit 52, Your Honor?
Any objection to Exhibit 52?
None.
Then Exhibit 52 will be admitted.
What's the jury looking at, Miss Ellis?
That's the one that we went to.
Whose idea was it to have lunch there?
Tim.
What reason did he give you for taking you and your mom out to lunch?
Well, he said he would like to take her out for her birthday.
Did you discuss Andre's murder at all?
No.
You said your mother was with you?
Yes, and my daughter.
Is your mother married to someone who is not your father?
Yes.
What is his name?
Antonio.
About how long did this lunch last?
It was pretty crowded. So I don't know, about an hour or two.
What's your mom's name?
Sonia.
Was that the only time you saw Mr. Norman while you were in California for the trip?
Yes.
What, if any, communication did you have with him in the weeks or months after Andre's murder?
He would call or text me.
What kind of communications?
Just sometimes he would call to check on me, and then he called me and told me that it was I had a wanted for questioning on my name, and he and to stay out of St. Louis, and whatever I go to St. Louis, he called me and told me to get out of St. Louis. Okay, this is a thing I need to. So he was learning that from Miss Robbie telling him stuff based on what she was learning from whatever thing she was being told by Miss Michelle, and they caught wind to that.
Wow. All right, where are we?
8.
Okay. Did he tell you why you were supposed to stay out of St. Louis?
Because I had a questioning for Andre's murder.
At some point in time, did Mr. Norman open a restaurant near you?
Yes, across the street from my salon in like 2019. I believe it was, or 2018 or 2019.
Did you ever speak to him about Andre's murder?
Yeah, I spoke with him about it, and I wanted to say it was like maybe May or June. I saw him in Jackson, Mississippi, and I asked him whatever happened, or did I still have a wanted for questioning? And he said, no, the case was closed.
At that point, before or after Andre's murder, did Mr. Norman ever tell you he had $450,000 in life insurance on Andre?
No.
When he was handing you that $10,000 in cash, what was the reason he gave you?
To help him find Andre so he could get his money and jewelry back from him.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Counsel, can I see you here at the sidebar? I was thinking.
We'll end it there. We'll end it there because it looks like it goes into depth. So we are ending on page 89, line 7, and we will resume this next week with more testimony from Terica Ellis.
And then Travell Hill.
And the interval and I'm sorry, YL said no. He said no, right. He didn't even show up. Okay, so put in the chat your clapping hands emojis, all your cheer emojis for our great cast this evening. I will let you all do your final words. Mocha, since you left off last, any final words before we check out?
This boggles my mind. It's just, and after what you just said about Miss Robbie hearing from Miss Michelle and then relaying it to Tim, I think she had I think she had her hands all in it. I think it's more to it, you know. I think she was involved a lot more than what is being portrayed. That's just my opinion. Allegedly.
Right. My lips are sealed. My lips
Allegedly,
are sealed.
but you can tell Terica was just a lost soul. And she just did it for the money.
That is cute.
She didn't really question nothing. And he, like you said previously, and he knew that that's why he used her.
Yep.
You know, so it's sad, but it's getting interesting for sure. But that's all I got. Thanks, guys. It's always a pleasure reading with you guys.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Great job.
All right. You guys have a good night.
You too. All right. And Robert, any closing words for us this evening? Thank you for hanging a little longer with us.
It shows how ugly Tim actually was. This man had the devil in his soul. He had no conscience. Most people have a moral structure that helps guide them to make decisions. Tim didn't really care. It is sad that we have people like this, but this is the world, and this trial transcript has opened my eyes to a lot of devious things. That's all I have to say.
Well, we appreciate you again this evening for your great work and wise words as well. And we will see you next week.
All right.
All right. Take care. Have a great evening. And last but certainly not least, Precious, thank you so much, friend, for pushing through everything you're going through personally to still bring the shenanigans. It is greatly appreciated.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate everybody's words and kind words. To me, just going on this part with Terica, I feel when she got that aha moment, when she got that text, it said move. And when Tim was like, don't say nothing. Even though she saw Tim in California, that trip was already planned.
Yes.
For her. So I feel she was scared. People may not believe that, but I think she was scared of Tim at that point because, one, she always talks about her kids, even though she's living her best life, whatever now. But to her, it's her kids. She has a daughter that has sickle cell that people forget about. And I feel she was scared for her life at that point because he's telling you, hey, she was already going back to Memphis that night anyway. But when Travell said move, and Tim is acting nonchalant and then telling her to stay out of St. Louis at that point, think about it. Bottoms up was her form of income.
Yeah.
So $10,000 may seem like a lot after, but it's not. So she's losing her form of income, how she takes care. Her mom is sick.
Right.
Okay. She's giving her mom, she said, you see in the transcript, she gives her cousin the money for watching her kids. So she lost her other source of income. Then Tim puts his business right across the street to watch her. You see what I'm saying? How sick can that be? He could have put that restaurant, he could put that anywhere else. But he put it right across the street to watch, to make sure, to keep an eye on her. To me, I felt that's why. Because he could have put that anywhere else, but he put it right across the street from her boutique. And you saw he said, I'm sorry, my dog's barking. My homeboy, pay attention. He never used names. So it's just like,
yes.
So people keep saying that you can't believe she's that naive. Shut up, Rocky. And then those letters. I keep thinking about her family's letters. So I just, now that looking at the transcript, I'm starting to realize that, and seeing how he kept not using people's names,
Mm-hmm.
the money at the chase and the draw.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody not know there are players in this
Yes.
chess he was playing. So I'm looking at it differently now that we've been reading the transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got to say. I know I'm long-winded. Sorry, but
no, you're good. And it's funny you say that. That gets brought in the closing arguments. That literally what you just said got pulled into it. And also now y'all are starting to see, while I had in those earlier times, I had more sympathy for Terica. You know, when I was doing the notes on the trial and so on, I was giving more grace to her because I had heard all these intricate pieces and how she was manipulated because she's not that tight.
Listen to her talk, even at the text messages, and like she bought Dre clothes. So you think somebody real, you know what I'm saying? She's buying him an outfit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's key. That was the piece for me too, because it wasn't even a cheap outfit. They were true religion jeans and whatever else. Why would you buy that for someone you know is gonna have their life taken?
She was saying that she could have got out the car too and talked to him, but she let him get in her car.
Right.
People most times they talk to somebody outside the car. Here's your outfit, bye. She could have been outside the car and talked to him. She let him get inside her Acura. And, I mean, just looking at the transcript, listening to it, you know, like I said, even you just reading those letters from her family, they're not the brightest bunch on the olive branch, you know what I'm saying? And they're a bunch of soup sandwiches. So now seeing it, but like I said, I felt he put that business across to watch her, and she lost her income. You know, stay out of St. Louis. And she used to go from Thursday to Sunday, where people start going to the strip club.
Yeah.
That's where they make their money at. She lost that income after that.
Yeah.
So trip to California wasn't, Tim just happened to go back to California, but that trip was already planned for her mom's birthday and all that stuff. So yeah, that's just my insight.
Yeah, and I never thought about the piece of, for $10,000 she lost probably 4 times, well, probably way more than that income in the lifetime that she would have still been going back and forth to the Bottoms Up Club. So he got her in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody.
All right. Thank you, friend. I'll talk to you later. All right, everyone. That is all. No need to delay. I think they summed it up perfectly. Thank you again for joining us. If you're watching on the replay, which many of you do, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to this Reality Chronicles channel. Once we get done with the trial, I will have other content coming out as well. But with that, thank you for joining. And until next time, make sure to take care and be blessed.